Hello everybody! Welcome to Creating the Basic Adaptable Game Engine Library, Part 41, Label Class Code. In the previous video, we talked about some of the design considerations for a label class. In particular, there's a lot of different customization options that we can take into account when we're creating this class. But we're going to limit ourselves to about 8 or 9 different design customizations. And in this video, it's time to write some code. So let's begin by opening up our development environment. Alright, here we are at IntelliJ, and we're going to go ahead and create a new class. The class is called Label. Let's go ahead and start that. A new class called Label. And the label class is going to extend the entity class. Because it extends the entity class, there's a few methods that we have to implement. We need to implement, let's open up entity. We need to implement a draw method, which takes in a graphics context that contains the instructions as to how something is rendered, and also an update method. The update method is very useful for some sprites, specifically those which contain physics or animation objects. We won't really use those here for the label class, but since it is an abstract method, we do need to implement it. So we'll probably just implement it with an empty method. So let's turn our attention back to the label class. Let's say public void draw. We're going to use a graphics context, named context. And of course we need to import this. And let's also write the update method, even though it is going to stay blank. So public void update. This will take in however much time has passed. All right. Now, let's start writing down all those different parameters we're going to include. And there are, well, a lot of them. First, let's say a public string containing the font name. That'll be Arial or Times New Roman or whatever you like. Comic Sans MS. It's up to you. Let's say we also have a public int for the font size. And then we'll use those parameters to load a font object. The font is a class which needs to be imported, and we want to be sure to get the import from Javafx. Very good. Next, maybe the text which is going to be displayed. So public string, call that text, and we'll have a public vector containing the position. As we discussed earlier, we also need to describe what part of the label that position maps to, and that's the alignment. And there's a few ways we could describe that. I'm just going to go for the quick way of we'll use a string set to either left or right or center text. So let's say public string alignment. There are other approaches you could use. You could use something like a enumerated type as well. We'll do that for now. Also, let's say public boolean. Do we want to draw a border? Then next we'll say we need to choose the border size. And in the case that draw border is set to true. Let's say, so this will be a, oh, I also forgot the font color. Let me go up here. Font, public, color, font color. This needs to be imported, again from Javafx. Alright, so we'll also need the border color. So public color, border color. And finally, let's say public int border size. That's a fair amount of customization right there. Let's see, is that everything? No, there's one more thing. Public boolean visible. Right, for messages we might not want to see until the end of the program. Okay, So let's say public label. The two parameters we probably definitely want are a string containing the font name and an int containing the font size. And I guess we could also set up a default constructor as well. But I think these are the two aspects that people want to customize most often. So let's see. This dot font name equals font name. I always like to do that for clarity using this. This dot font size equals font size. Well, I don't know if I'm actually going to use those later, so maybe I didn't even need to store those. What I do need to generate is a new font object, which takes in the font name and the font size as parameters. Now let's see. Yeah, I'm not sure if I actually need these. No, I'll leave them in anyway. Let's see, I want to set some default values here, so maybe I'll say this dot font color. Most fonts are black by default, so from the color class, I have that. Then I'll say the default text, this dot text is equal to just a few dots for something in there. This dot position is a new vector. And hopefully that'll get set later by the user. This dot alignment, let's say left by default. Then I need some border parameters here. This dot draw border. Let's set that equal to false. This dot border color is color dot black, and this dot border size, let's set that equal to 1 pixel, and let's make it visible by default. This dot visible equals true. Phew, that's a lot of parameters right there. All right, now how do we actually use them to draw something? Well, first, let's take visibility into account. If it's not the case that this is visible, right, then we want to exit out of the draw method. Otherwise, the methods that we need, they all belong to the graphics context object. We'll set the font to whatever our stored font is. And what set fill is, that uses the color that we're going to use to draw the inside of the text. So this will be whatever font color is set to. Right, the parameter for this is really a paint object. So in theory, if you knew a lot about Javafx, you could use all sorts of gradient patterns and you can have a lot of fun doing graphics with Javafx. Next, I need to set the alignment. So if alignment equals left, then let's say context set text alignment, not content, sorry, context. We'll set the text alignment to, no, not alignment, set text align. I love when the color changes and you know something's wrong right away, so you don't have to wait to compile it. There's a text alignment class in Javafx which contains enumerated constants. I need to import that. And I really don't want the user to have to figure out the magic things to import here. I think it makes it a little bit more user-friendly to use this class if the user just has to specify a string rather than setting up this import statement. Let's also say else if alignment equals center, then context set text align text alignment dot center, and then, well, of course there's one more case, else if alignment equals right context set text align text alignment dot right. Very good. That handles all of the alignment. So whatever the position is set to, that'll be used to align things. Next, I need to set the transform. And it's interesting because really I'm not going to use any rotation for the text object, but I do have to clear out any transform data which might have been applied to the canvas when a different sprite was rendered. So that's why I have this line of code, set transform to be 1, 0, 0, 1. That sets it to no rotation. And because of the way the fill text command works for a context, I'm not going to specify the position in here like I did in the sprite class. It's going to be a little bit different. Also, I want to make sure that I'm not using any of the opacity values from rendering a previous sprite, so I'll set the global alpha to 1, meaning the text is completely opaque. And finally, let's say context.fillText, and we'll use whatever stored in text, position.x, and position.y. Right, and that will render the text to the screen. One thing I haven't taken into account is drawing a border around the text. Right, so the border is kind of superimposed around the edges of the filled in portion of the text. So let's say if draw border, right, if that's set to true, then I also want to say context.set the color which is used kind of around the edges is called the stroke color. So this is set stroke to whatever border color is. And we'll also say context.set line width. Right, drawing borders on text counts as drawing lines. So you specify the width right here. So we'll set the line width to border size. And finally, let's say context dot, just like you can fill the text, you can draw the stroke line around the text. And again, it's going to look exactly the same as this code right here. So the text to be written, the position X value, and the position Y value. There you go. That's how we draw a border around the text. Now, just for convenience and readability, maybe we'll do a few things like a set position and a set text method. You could have all sorts of set methods for all these different parameters. Let's do a few, just for a nice API. Let's do public void set position, and we'll say double X, double Y. And what that does is position set values to X and Y. Let's also say public void set text to some string t. Just say text is equal to t. Actually, you know what? I kind of want to keep going with the set methods. Let's do public set border. You know, for this, let's say set border. If you're setting border parameters, that automatically means you're going to set the border to true. So draw border, that should be equal to true if you're setting some parameters. Now, this is void because we're just setting values. Now, let's say we're going to set the color and the size. Let's say int size color color, and here we'll say border size equals size, border color equals color. So what else do we need? Set border. Maybe I'll just stop here. Again, you could make this class as user-friendly as you'd like. But this is a good class. Right? It's going to allow us to draw some really cool text in our game. So that's probably it for this video. And in the next video, we'll actually use this class and we'll put some text in the new and improved Starfish Collector game. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.